Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Managers of Reddit, past or present. What is your favorite I am the manager story? Part 3. Worked as a relief manager for about 50 betting shops across 3 districts. Basically, if a manager was on annual leave or sick, I would go cover their shops. Normally, there was a senior cashier who could do the job, but the district managers liked having a manager there as well. One day, I get sent to a shop I've never been to, nor have I ever had any interaction with. The senior cashier was told they would be sending over relief to staff as she was down 3 staff for the day. I go in as cover along with somebody I'd worked with before and is an excellent cashier. I get there a bit late as I'd been in a different shop and had to collect the other cashier. As we walk in, the senior cashier starts saying to me that I'm late and how dare I not be there on time. I should point out that the 2 cashiers are female and I'm male and considerably younger than both. I let it pass and go about the usual take that needs to be done in a new shop. About an hour later, I get a message from our security control saying that the shop has 3 times the allowable cash on site. Message only shows up for me and nobody else as I'm the manager. I ask where the safe is and the codes. Senior cashier goes ballistic, demanding to know where I got off asking about the safe and cash. Let it be for a minute and reply to security control asking them to ring into the shop asking about the cash. Basically, I didn't want to rock the boat just yet. Anyways, can get sorted eventually, but I'm a bit suspicious of what's going on. With manager access to the system, I can see how much money is on the shop, what payouts are due, and amount of money at risk from future possible payouts. Altogether, it doesn't look too bad, with only about 10,000 euros in current payouts and about half of that in possible payouts. About reasonable for a shop of its size. I also check the bets to see what they are on. Senior cashier goes out to lunch and a guy comes in with what he claims is a winning bet. Tell him that it's a loser, sorry. Complains that it is a winner and that the senior cashier told him it won. Guy leaves and thought that was the end of it. I go out to lunch and when I come back, I have about 10 warning messages on my system about winnings and large payouts. Check the payouts and all payouts are wrong. Not just wrong, but seriously wrong. Losing bets settled as 2,000 euro winners, that type of thing. One bet was the one I denied earlier, so I excuse myself and rang security control to let them know. All for permission to revoke most of her permissions and only allow for taking bets. Basically, set her permissions to a day 1 trainee. Went in and reset permissions. Next suspicious bet comes in and she tries to pay it out. She can't and starts to get flustered. Asks the other cashier to pay it out. As per policy, she asks me to do it as I'm the senior person. I check the bet and it's wrong. 50 euro win, 50 to 1 where the horse fell at the first fence. I tell her it's wrong and cancel the payout. She goes ballistic, tells me I can't do that and she is the manager. Explain that I'm the current shop's manager and that I had suspended her access. Further, until further notice, I was taking off working the tills or processing the bets. She was to sit at the staff table and wait until the end of the day to clock out. I also explained that I had reported the issue to security and was taking over the shop for the next week. Security came out to review the shop's logs and all bets. Turned out that she'd been changing bets for about 6 months and was taking a cut off the winnings. I ended up running that shop for about 3 months with the other cashier and 2 new staff as everybody previously working there was suspended. She and the manager were eventually fired and she agreed to pay back the money in return for not being prosecuted. Actually just heard this one yesterday. I have an acquaintance who was, up until recently, in special forces. During a recent war, his division was in charge of guarding a key position. He was given the orders to not let anyone in by car, even the chief commander. Who shows up not 20 minutes later in a car asking to be let in? The chief commander. Diligently following orders, my acquaintance refuses him entry. "Do you know who I am?" the chief commander asks. "Yes, sir, of course I do," my acquaintance replies, "and I was given specific orders to not let anyone in by car, yourself included, mentioned by name." Now, it should be mentioned that the army in question is not one to be effed with. The commander stares at him for a few seconds, mutters something to his driver, pulls over, gets out of the car, walks into the building by foot. A few minutes later, the commanding officer runs over to the soldier. "You're an idiot! Do you know who that was?" he shouts. "Of course I do," the soldier replies. "You told me specifically to refuse him access by car." "You're an idiot!" the commanding officer replies. "His name was used as an exaggeration! If the chief commander comes here by car, you effing let him in!" I was the GM of a beautiful new big-name hotel at 23 to 24. My AGM was a white woman in her 50s, me being mixed. Many occasions occurred where I was speaking with a guest over an issue and they demand to speak to a manager only for me to say, "I am the manager." No, the real manager, please. The look on their faces when my coworker told them I was in fact her boss with a huge smile. Luckily, my AGM was a kick-A woman and we got a kick out of this. I used to be in the management team of the customer service department for a national retailer. One time, I went into a store in my hometown, not the area where I work, head office, so to be fair to the staff, why would they ever expect to have head office walk in? Anyway, I turned up a day before the release date for something I had my eyes on and spent a while with a member of staff putting together a package of stuff, accessories, etc., as well as my main purchase. Came to about 250 pounds. He was incredibly rude the entire time, seemed confused that a woman would know so much about the products, and seemed to be taken aback that I came in and knew exactly what I want. Was very disinterested and dismissive throughout. Anyway, staff could get this particular product one day earlier than the public, which never happened. In fact, I think that product release was the only time it ever happened in the 2.5 years with the company. So when I had everything I wanted, I said cheers, so here's my staff ID, can I get a staff discount on the lot and take it home now? Well, then it kicked off. He argued my staff ID was fake. Why would I go through the trouble of creating a plastic card with my name and photo on it to get 5 pounds off each thing? He argued that I cannot take it home earlier and said, "Get in line with the rest of the customers tomorrow, love." And I can't believe I had to do this, but I had to tell him to call customer services and explain that the manager of customer services was in his store and that he was refusing staff discount and to take the stuff home earlier, even though it is in the communication sent to 300 stores across the country. Long story short, I got my stuff, never shopped there again, and when I got back to head office, sent a strong email to his area manager. A late 30 to early 40s, overweight, unattractive, and smelly guy was hanging out at the store being rude to customers and my employees. Things really escalated when he started harassing a 13 to 15-year-old girl who was one of our regular customers. I walked up to him with our store Polaroid, this was back when they still sold them, told him to smile, took his picture, and said, "This picture is going up where every employee can see it. If you ever come back into this store, 911 will be called and you will be removed for trespassing. Your behavior is not welcome in this store." He said, "You can't do this to me. I demand to see the manager." I pointed to my manager who was on the phone with the police. He's the manager, I'm the owner, and unless you want to be arrested, I'd leave now. He waited around to be arrested. Turns out he had a record as a P and shouldn't have been in the store in the first place. His face wasn't the only Polaroid on our wall of shame. For clarification, the store I owned was a comic book/gaming store. We didn't have a wall of P's, but we did have a wall of shame. People who we had to kick out for various reasons, such as theft, violence, disruptive behavior, or vandalism that you might expect, but also for harassment, poor hygiene, trying to cheat other customers with trades, and a more nebulous creep factor that stores that focus on such things suffer from. I strove to make the store I owned into a friendly local gaming store, and that meant I had to be downright draconian about who I would let stay based on how likely they were to spend their money versus drive away my other paying customers. A couple years ago, I had been given a great opportunity to open a new restaurant. I was in my mid-20s, and this was the first chance I had been given to completely run the show. It was our opening weekend, so I called up one of my old managers, who's also a good friend, and asked if he would come help me for the first week, which he happily agreed to. So it's Saturday night, every table is filled, and the wait is over an hour. Things were going better than I expected, although I honestly wasn't sure what to expect. Myself and my friend, who's about twice my age, were just walking the dining room, spending the majority of our evenings clearing plates and talking with customers. Everyone was cheerful, and many commented on how happy they were to have a new restaurant in the area. Then came the first problem customer in our young history. When I cleared her plate and asked how everything was, she snapped about how they had been waiting 5 whole minutes for the server to pick up their credit card. I told her I could help her with that and reached for the card she put on the table. A look of complete disgust came over her face, and she snatched the card back and put it in her purse. Okay, cool. A couple minutes later, a server asked me if I picked up the card. I told them no, she put it in her purse and that she was ready to give it to her. That's when it went off the rails. This woman insisted that I had taken her card and was demanding I return it. I stopped back over and told her I watched her put it back in her purse, which she vehemently denied and started to be unreasonably loud. She began demanding I find her card now or she was calling the police, and actually stood up and was stomping her foot like a child. This actually threw me off, as I started to wonder if in the chaos of the night I actually did take her card. So I look everywhere, no card. I go back and ask her again to please look in her purse. She refuses. My friend sees this happening and comes over to try and assist. It was at that point that she stood up, looked him straight in the eyes, and said, "Your filthy busboy lost my credit card and you better find it now." Now it started to make sense. She was looking down on me, and that's why she didn't want me to touch her card, because she assumed I was some sort of lowlife. He explained to her that I was actually the manager, her behavior was appalling, and asked her to look in her purse for the card. What a surprise! There it was! She put her head down, paid, and left without saying a word. Never saw her again. Manager for a soaps, lotion, and candle store here. My favorite one is when we caught a serial shoplifter. I saw a woman being sketchy and walking around all shifty eyes. I tried approaching her and she bolted, but I saw some of our sprays in her bag. So I called security to give them a heads up, as well as a detailed description of her clothing and bag, which was a huge shopping bag from a store not from our mall. Typically, we don't prosecute under $500. 2 hours later, security calls and asks me to come back to the mall office to identify items. I had double coverage at that point, so I walked back. The woman was sneering at me, but all of the stuff she had shoplifted from our store, as well as others, was on the table in front of her. I filled out a report and didn't think anything of it. The next day, she showed up at our store screaming that she wanted me fired because I filled out a false report and made security track her. My associate said, "I'll just call the manager." I stepped out from the back, smiled when I saw who it was, and said, "I'm the manager. How may I help you?" She was furious but silently left. I then tipped off mall security she was back and she was banned from the mall. If you want to watch the part 2, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and the comments. See you in the next video.